Now, according to groups like the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development or the United Nations, the US ranks somewhere around 14th on the Global Happiness Index scale. Yet we have the world's largest economy. Don't buy into a Global Happiness Index? According to the Association for Anxiety and Depression of America, at any given point in time, there are more than 40 million Americans struggling with anxiety and depression. In fact, I hardly know anybody who hasn't faced either or both at some point in their life, myself included. Still can't buy into that. Let's just safely say that the American lifestyle comes with a fair amount of societal pressure and performance stress that says if you are not growing, building, or achieving, you are in fact failing, lazy, or incompetent. Now, I want to quote the first TED Talk I ever watched by Brene Brown when she says, "We are the most in-debt, obese, addicted, and medicated adult cohort in US history." That encouraged me to ask a lot of why questions in my own life, like, why am I so success and money driven to quote unquote save the world while my personal health and life suffered immensely? Now, after I released my first book, Running from Fear, it turns out that actually I wasn't alone. And people weren't only willing to have this conversation, they wanted to have this conversation. So a friend asked me if I'd be willing to write a sequel for businesses to take it into the corporate setting or just groups in general. I said, of course, sure. So weathering the corporate storm started with one simple question. If money can buy us happiness, why isn't it working? Now, my success is a bit of a roller coaster of a journey. I started my freshman year of college with one business, and I got lucky and I had a lot of support, but after 4 years, I had a break. One business turned into two turned into three, and I'm sure you can see where this is going. I had social programs, I had a nonprofit, I had a 6-figure income, I had a 7-figure net worth. I was crushing it by the American standard, right? Fast forward to 2016, in the span of about 3 months, I lose it all. The money, the success, the power, the businesses, the nonprofit, the influence, everything I had gone. Now, I'm not going to deny that that was indeed a difficult time in my life. But the reality is upon going through that journey on the other side, what I found in a time when I should have had the most anxiety and depression, I actually had more joy than when I had it all. If I were to put up a picture as an advertisement for joy of me standing in front of a mansion, driving, let's say, some sports cars, or I put up the real picture of me in front of my 800 square foot house driving my used dirty car, which one are you realistically going to pick, right? The societal pressures is exasperated by things like reality TV or our friends or advertisements or social media. Let's just pick on Facebook. At any given point in time, I can go on Facebook and find a video that has millions of views of some dude washing his Lamborghini, holding that stack of $100 bills, flaunting a get-rich-quick scheme. Suffice it to say, joy is the furthest thing from the conversation. Now, I want to bluntly state that in a time of extreme polarization in our society, I think we could use a bit less judgments and resentments. What if the goal was to laugh more and have a bit less stress? To maybe worry about our own selves a bit less and to care for others more? What if we took time to engage the interconnectedness of our communities, not the monopolistic agendas of our own pride and egos? Everybody unanimously says, yes. Of course, we all want that. We all want more joy. And we ride this hype for a little bit, and then it wears back down, and reality comes back to place, and the conversation quickly turns to a different direction. What power do I have to honestly make a difference? And I will not negate that you will have power in all different shapes and forms, both small and large, throughout your life, but we usually forget the power that we actually have to make a difference right now. And what you do with that power defines the character of who you are as a person. Now, I've been lucky enough to consult for just about every industry you can think of through my companies. And there's been lots of running themes, and the one that I want to pick on today is bullying. We think we leave bullying in high school. I'm here to promise you we don't. In every industry I've looked at, through all levels, it's everywhere. And it's justified in all sorts of different ways. Okay? We can be ruthless, we can be condescending, and we can be incredibly judgmental. But it's not working. It's toxic not only for the business or the group cultures, but it's actually toxic for our own selves and our own lives and our own relationships. And this is a conversation to say that the best leaders I have ever met are the ones who lead not through control and fear and power, but the ones who actually lead through the service of others. But getting there means owning the power you have to make a difference now. So before we dive into Trickle Out collaboration, I want to say one preface. This is not a perfect how-to list with all of the answers. It is a self-reflecting guide that I am passing on to you from my own faults and failures in my journey to say that not only we can do better, in fact, we can do a lot better. So for today, the 3 parts we're going to look at is you, then we're going to bring others into the equation, and then we're going to tie it back into you as a part of the whole or us. So, first place we have to start is fears. The older we get, the less we actually want to admit we have fears, let alone talk about them. But I promise you, everybody sitting in this room has them. They usually stem from one of 2 places: the concept of control or the feeling of not being enough. Control is the easy one that we're going to talk about first, right? This is the 4 walls you return to at night. This is your home, okay? This is your job, your health insurance, your car insurance. This is everything that you do, like your retirement plans, to try and box and control your way to lead in the directions that you want it to go. We even do this with our friends and our spouses and our kids, right? But one of the absolute best things I've ever done was work in inpatient oncology. And if you're sitting at a bedside with a 32-year-old mother and her 3 kids are there, and she has weeks left to live, ask her what control really means when you quote-unquote do it all right. The concept of enough is not as easy to talk about because 3,000 to 5,000 times a day we are bombarded with advertisements. And what is an advertisement simply saying? You're not enough. If you don't drive this car, live in this neighborhood, eat this diet, wear this outfit, whatever it is for the low, low price of $9.99, you can become enough. Well, what's the problem with that? Next week, next month, next year, it's a new outfit, it's a new diet, it's a new house, it's a new kitchen appliance, and you can never keep up, and therefore you will never be enough. That ties me into redefining enough. When we redefine enough based on the quality of our relationships, not only with the outside world, but actually the quality of the relationships we have with ourselves. Point 3 is self-care. What happens when you get a headache? I don't care if it's aspirin, ibuprofen, Advil, you name it, we pop a pill. We never stop to actually ask why we have the headache in the first place. Usually we wait until despair takes hold of us and it's too late. When the doctor calls and we find out we have heart disease or cancer, or for me, it was systemic infections that were ravaging my body, and I was weeks away from my own deathbed. Now I was listening. But a healthy relationship with other people first begins by having a healthy relationship with yourself. To tie into the second part, number 4, inward reflections. Do you put yourself on a pedestal? This can be surmised in the notion of I'm better than you syndrome. And it can also actually work in reverse of I'm not as good as that person syndrome. When our ego and our pride and our conquest for control and power gets in the way, we quickly always put people in categories of worth and value. And we forget to see that those human beings are actually just that. They're human beings. Now, number 5, define your image. We always like to define our own image, right? Got to make that Facebook profile picture look good. But we forget about the fact that we are part of a community. Start a survey, hold a meeting, ask your friends, ask your coworkers. What do your clients think? What does your family think? What does your community think? Because you can be a part of a mission that serves the greater good of the whole, not just yourself. Which brings me to number 6. Bringing the opposites together is actually one of my favorite talks. When I get to deal with, say, a leadership team, they're going on and on about what's something simple that I can do to make a difference right now. And I say, well, actually, if you're the highest paid income earner in your company, eat lunch once a week with the lowest paid income earner. Sitting around a table, you might actually be able to break some barriers down and have a real conversation to realize you're not that different after all. Number 7, own your imperfections. Your faults, your failures, your insecurities are actually a gift. You have learned very hard things through trials and tribulations in your life, and you have got wisdom now from that you can share back to help us improve our own lives. And furthermore, do you actually ask for constructive criticism in a safe way from those in your life? It's important to know that none of us are perfect. We don't all have our poop in a group, but we can learn from each other. Which leads me into the third part. Number 8, cultivate your passions. I don't care if your passions are not the same as mine. What brings you to life? Is that baking cookies? Is that teaching yoga to your friends or coworkers once a week? Whatever brings you to life is actually only going to ultimately bring me more joy and inspire me to follow my own dreams and passions. Number 9, transparency. Do you openly share information? What about your wealth, your resources, and your power? Interconnected companies and relationships don't just survive, they actually thrive. Which brings me to point 10, and the most important point at all. Give back, but give back freely. I don't care if you drove a car here, rode the bus, or a bike, or walked. You did not make those cars or those buses or those bikes. Even if you did, you didn't build the road or the sidewalk that helps you to get here. Your phone does not work because you wish it to do so. We are interdependent upon millions of other lives in our communities and throughout the world. And giving is a verb, not a noun. This is not a one-time action when you put the $20 in the red bucket at Christmas time to clear your conscience. So when you give back freely the same way that you receive. I'd like to leave you with one quote from Gandhi when he says, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." Thank you.